Boy, did I break it? Oh,
Hi, everybody. How's it going?
okay.
Oh, good. I'm expecting a lot more people, but I always start right on time and then they can trickle in. So my name's Courtney. I've been tutoring for over 10 years now for a lot of different tests, including the STR, core subjects, ESL, bilingual supplemental, BTL, PT, LOTE. So if you need help with any other tests, let me know. But tonight's all about the STR. So we're going to go over one competency, the content, and then some sample questions. And then I'll see if you guys have any questions. So let me just admit everybody that's just now showing up. So the STR, it's a tricky test because you have to know all of the content, but you also have to know how to answer the constructed response question, right? So I addressed that in my course. But I thought today we'd go over competency one, just start from the beginning. This is all about the foundations of STR, right? Um, so you can read all kinds of literature on this, the National Reading Panel, National Early Literacy Panel. But what I've done is I've taken things from those and condensed it into one place. So you can get everything you need in one place. Um, these are the research-based components of reading instruction. Phonemic awareness, which you probably remember from the core subjects test, is being able to focus on and manipulate phonemes in spoken words. Phonological awareness is detecting, manipulating, and analyzing the spoken sounds, the phonemes, right? Also being able to distinguish and segment them and blend them. A National Reading Panel publication on research findings reports that phonemic awareness and letter knowledge, those two things, phonemic awareness and letter knowledge, are the two best predictors of how well children will learn to read. Okay, so those two, if you guys could mute your mic, that'd be great because I'm hearing background noise. Thank you. Yeah, so phonemic awareness and letter knowledge are super important, right? So that's what we start with. Phonics is a method of instruction that focuses on the correlation between letters and sounds in an alphabetic language. Fluency, it includes three things: accuracy, speed, and intonation, all three of those. So if you do a fluency assessment, you should be assessing how many words they get right, accuracy, how fast, how many words per minute, speed, and intonation, also called prosody, reading with expression instead of reading in a monotone voice. If they lack any of those, it's going to affect their fluency, which then in turn affects their comprehension, right? Vocabulary, of course, that's the words that they know and can use. So we have oral vocabulary that they can hear and understand, right? And speak, and reading vocabulary that they can read and understand. And then text comprehension, of course, is understanding what's in the text. So you might notice I have this broken down by letters. This is like in the state manual. So everything I do is aligned to the state manual, which means it's aligned to the test. All right. Now, you probably heard of the TEKS, the Texas Essential Knowledge and Skills that you have to follow for kindergarten all the way up through high school. They have TEKS. But for pre-K, they have pre-kindergarten guidelines. So it's good to look over those, and I have them hyperlinked in my course. Um, this is about emerging literacy, motivation to read. So we want to make it fun, right? Get books that they're going to enjoy. Phonological awareness, this auditory skill focuses on the ability to understand that spoken language is derived from sounds, and the success of beginning of reading is directly related to their ability to identify the sound structure of language. Alphabet knowledge, they have to know their letters, right? Comprehension of text read aloud skills, reading aloud to them, different genres, exposes them to language and vocabulary. And then print concepts. They need to start to understand the difference between letters, words, and pictures, and print directionality, reading from left to right and from top to bottom, right? Strand one, developing and sustaining foundational language skills. Oral language. Oral language is the building block of reading fluency. And if you guys could mute your mics, please. I don't know whose is not muted, but if you guys could mute it, that'd be great. Thank you. So oral language is the building block of reading fluency, really. That's why in pre-K, if you've ever been in a pre-K classroom, the focus is on um, the focus is always on oral language, both receptive, understanding what you hear, and expressive speaking. Okay, comprehension. So oral language, we have to work on vocabulary, fluency that we talked about, accuracy, rate, and intonation, and self-sustained reading, giving them lots of opportunities to read. Then we have comprehension skills, teach some metacognitive strategies. You might remember that from the core subjects. That's when they use strategies to check their own understanding. So some examples are establishing a purpose for reading, generating questions while they read, before and after they read too, making predictions, creating mental images, making connections with the text, making inferences, evaluating details and synthesizing text. So they ask themselves, am I understanding as I read? And that's what research shows good readers do. We want to use an integrated and recursive model of literacy to give them lots of opportunities for listening, speaking, writing, reading, and thinking, right? And here's the stages of reading development. So emergent reader, pre-reading or pre-alphabetic stage, they have different names. Children in this stage are 6 months to 6 years old. So it's important to start reading to babies, even when they're very little, way before they're talking. We start reading to them. They start to make connections with sounds, words, stories, and literacy concepts. Then beginning readers, they're in the decoding stage or partial to full alphabetic stage, usually 6 to 7 years of age. And during this stage of reading, they begin to learn that letters and sounds have a relationship and are connected to spoken language and print. Transitional readers, this is between 7 and 9 years of age, and they read familiar text with fluency. Remember, that's accuracy, intonation, and speed. And then intermediate readers, this is when they're reading to learn. So they've transitioned from learning to read to reading to learn, usually between 9 to 15 years old. And then advanced readers is usually 16 years and beyond. They can read advanced texts, including narrative and expository materials. There's a difference between decoding and encoding. So most people have heard of decoding. That's basically sounding out words. But encoding is something a lot of people haven't heard of. It's basically spelling. You hear a word and you have to write out how it's spelled. That's encoding. Stages of spelling development. Usually in the pre-communicative, pre-phonetic stage, they're 3 to 5 years old. They don't grasp the understanding that letters and sounds correspond. That's why we want to use those big flip books and point to the words as we read so they start to make those connections. In the semi-phonetic stage, they're usually 4 to 6 years old. They start making connections between letters and sounds. They may start to pronounce the correct sound represented by the letter and start encoding, spelling. Alphabet knowledge is apparent in this stage. And then in the phonetic stage, usually they're 5 to 7 years old. They begin to utilize their letter sound correspondence to spell, and they can successfully spell CVC words, consonant, vowel, consonant words, right? But it's going to be spelled phonetically, not correctly, not traditionally, right? Then the transitional stage, usually 6 to 11 years old, they'll know when common words are misspelled. They use a vowel for each syllable. And then they start to understand word structures like affixes. Those are prefixes and suffixes, contractions, double letters, and they can start to correct their own spelling mistakes. Then we have the conventional stage. Usually they're 10 to 11 years old or even older. They understand the English orthographic system and all its basic rules. They understand prefixes and suffixes, irregular spelling, and silent consonants. They spell almost everything correctly. All right. So listening comprehension, of course, is understanding what they hear, vocabulary development, the process to gain new words. And of course, that involves vocabulary for speaking, for listening, for reading, and writing. Literary analysis, examining a text closely to gather a better understanding of the meaning. Analysis of informational text or reading to gain an understanding of informational or expository text by identifying text structures, intended audience, and purpose. And then responses to text. We want to give them opportunities to respond orally and by writing to what they read. Right. When planning reading instruction, you have to give them lots of opportunities to read different genres and challenge themselves to read things out of their comfort zone, right? But it needs to be at their appropriate reading level. We don't want to give them things that are at their frustration level. So a little tip is to find out if it's at the right reading level, if they just open up a book to any page, and if they get to 5 words or more that they don't know, the book is too hard and they should pick a different book that has less than 5 words per page they don't know. Um, So you want to familiarize yourself with reading expectations so you can vertically align instruction. So look at the TEKS for different grade levels and see what's expected, right? Your instruction should be explicit and very clear and strategic, right? Following the TEKS, vertically aligned, using ongoing data collection. Right. Teachers need to ensure that reading instruction is explicitly taught from phonological awareness skills to the analysis of text. So we start with the most basic and work our way up, right? Children benefit from teacher modeling and guided practice more than memorization of worksheets. Build time in your instructional day to allow for all students to actively read independently on the text of their choice. Some districts call that silent sustained reading or DEAR, drop everything and read, right? Students need to be exposed to strategies that encourage participation and utilize their strengths when responding to instruction, right? Give them sentence stems if they need that, and definitely graphic organizers, right? Plan meaningful lessons that connect to their prior knowledge, their schema, and to help them improve their literacy skills. Include texts that highlight aspects of all cultures, right? So from diverse backgrounds. Right? Differentiated instruction. This should sound familiar because I'm betting all of you guys are enrolled in a certification program of some sort, or you're getting your degree in education, right? So you've probably learned about differentiated instruction, but I'll refresh your memory in case you don't remember right now. But differentiated instruction is all about meeting the needs of all learners. So you take into account that some students are struggling, some are advanced, some are intermediate, right? They also all have different interests, different backgrounds, different readiness levels, different learning styles. So we take all of that into account when we plan our lessons. That way it meets the needs of all learners, right? So maybe you have a small group instruction for reading and you have different levels of text all on the same topic following the TEKS, but at the appropriate level for your students. All right. We want to always give like a pre-test at the beginning of a unit to see what they know, right? Lessons should be designed for them to benefit from instruction, and pacing should align with their understanding. So you use continuing assessments for that, right? You want to use scaffolding, that's extra support given to students to help them reach the next level of proficiency. Things like rephrasing, using body language and gestures, checking for understanding. This is especially important if you have English language learners in the classroom, which I'm sure you will. Right? And then you plan your further instruction based off of your data from your assessments. You've probably heard of RTI, response to intervention, and multi-tiered systems of support. So at tier 1, the teachers provide effective grade level instruction to all learners, the whole class, right? Tier 2 is targeted prevention, some students. So you notice which students need help and give them some extra practice and feedback in this tier. And then tier 3 is intensive intervention for students who need more individualized support to target individual academic or behavioral needs with goals for academics and behavior. So RTI is a multi-tier approach, kind of like what we were talking about. So with tier 1, they all receive high quality, scientifically based instruction. In target 2, they get targeted intervention with intense interventions for their learning gaps, right? If they're still struggling after you've done tier 1 and tier 2, then they get tier 3, intensive intervention and comprehensive evaluation, right? So this would be more individual help. Fidelity of implementation. This means you follow through with needed interventions, right? You're actually putting these steps into place. right? And then the next part, the teacher demonstrates the understanding that all students learn at different rates and some need extra support and they definitely all need continual monitoring, right? And flexible grouping. So we're always changing their groups for small group instruction, depending on how they're doing. All right, decoding is basically sounding out words and reading them, right? According to letter sound relationships. Dyslexia is an unexpected difficulty in reading for people who have the intellectual ability to be successful readers, right? Some characteristics of dyslexia for preschool students: trouble learning nursery rhymes, difficulty learning the names of letters, unable to learn letters in their name, struggles to recognize rhyming patterns, history of reading problems in the family. Now, once they get to kindergarten and first grade, these are the signs or characteristics. Errors in reading that have no connection to the sounds of the letters on the page. They might say mom instead of lady if they see the picture of a woman. They don't understand that words come apart. They express that reading is hard and will come up with a reason to leave the classroom when it is time to read. They have a history of reading problems in the family. They have difficulty sounding out simple words like cap, mat, not. They do not connect correct sounds to letters. And then beyond, in second grade and beyond, they slowly acquire reading skills. Reading is awkward. They frequently guess words if they can't sound them out. They don't have strategies to read new words and they avoid reading out loud. I'm working with somebody in private tutoring right now that has dyslexia and she has passed her core subjects test and now she's working on her remaining tests. And it's amazing to see her progress even with her challenges. And she applied for alternative testing arrangements. In case you haven't heard of that, you can apply for that and get extra time on your test. So if you have something like dyslexia or anxiety, ADD, ADHD, you can apply for alternative testing arrangements and get, not everybody gets approved, but if you get approved, you get extra time on your test. And I'll tell you how to do that. You just Google alternative testing arrangements. This will come up and then you can read what you have to do to apply for it, right? Not everybody gets it, but it's worth a shot to see if you could get extra time on your test if you're struggling with that. So dysgraphia, it depends on what you need. Your doctor has to write a note, and some people get a private room, some people get extra time. It really depends, but you can apply and see what you get and you request. Dysgraphia is the condition of impaired letter writing by hand, like disabled handwriting. They have an awkward, tight pencil grip and position. They want to avoid writing and drawing. They have a hard time forming letter shapes. Their spacing is inconsistent between words and letters. They don't understand lowercase and uppercase letters. They're unsuccessful in writing on lines. They quickly tire when writing. And young writers, their handwriting is illegible. They mix print and cursive. They speak words out loud while writing. They don't understand what is written due to the high level of concentration on the writing. They have difficulty coming up with the words to write. They omit words or do not finish sentences. So if they're struggling with this, they need more explicit instruction and focused practice on phonological and phonemic awareness skills. Remember those response to intervention we were talking about, right? They need to work on rhymes, matching letters with sounds, segmenting words into syllables, isolating initial sounds, etc. All right. It's important to communicate with families, right? So sending a weekly newsletter is very helpful. Your district will probably have an app that you use, like the Remind app or something like that, where Seesaw Dojo, where you send information home. But you also want to use other means of communication, right? So, like I know my daughter's school, they send it out in email and they put it in the app. That way they reach all the parents, right? And there might be times you have to call parents too, keep them informed on what's going on in the classroom. Phonemes are the smallest unit of sound in a spoken language. A morpheme is the smallest unit in language that has meaning. So like a base word, a root word, a prefix, and a suffix are all part of morphology, right? Phonology is the study of those sounds. Morphology is the study of the morphemes. Syntax is basically word order or sentence structure. Semantics is the study of the meaning of words. Discourse is the spoken or written forms of communication. And pragmatics is how context contributes to meaning, how language is used according to the situation. So we know that how we talk to our friend is different than how we talk to our boss, right? All right. So you want to use technology in the classroom, and you probably know about even more resources if you're in the classroom. But Google Classroom, Seesaw, Education Galaxy, Smarty Amps, lots of appropriate things to use. Now, to help them choose just the right book, right? Let me see if I can make this bigger. The book is too hard if there's 5 words or more they don't know, or if their reading voice sounds bumpy, if they don't understand, if it's hard to focus. Just right if there's 3 to 4 words they don't know, they understand most parts, and their reading voice is mostly smooth with just a few bumps. The book is enjoyable. The book is too easy if there's only 0 to 2 words they don't know, the reading voice is perfectly smooth, and they don't need use any reading strategies. So they can use that 5 finger rule. If it's more than 5, it's too hard. 3 to 4, give it a try. 1 to 2, perfect choice. 0 to 1, too easy. Right? So that's some strategies. So that concludes competency 1, but I thought we would do a few questions. So you can, if you're interested, like if you don't have study material yet, or maybe your study material isn't working for you, because I know a lot of people buy their study material first and they get overwhelmed by it. You can see mine is pretty simple, right? We got through a whole competency really quickly. Um, I think it saves you time compared to other programs that have a lot of extra material. I try to cut out all the extra stuff. So I'll send a link tonight in case you want to enroll in my course. And then I also have a practice test. So maybe you have good study material and you just want an extra practice test. You can enroll in that too. So let's look at these questions. Feel free to put your answer in the chat box, and I'll make this a little bit smaller so you can see all of it. See if you guys remember this. We've got a couple of answers. Good, I'm seeing different answers. So this is tricky. Select all that apply. So letter knowledge and phonemic awareness are the two main ones that we mentioned. All right, and then the next question. Good, oral vocabulary. That's huge for reading instruction, right? So that's why in pre-K and kindergarten, the focus is really on oral language. You can mute your mic, please. See what people are picking here. A. So this one, you can see what happens in my course. If you pick a different answer, it will tell you the correct answer is B, pre-alphabetic, because he does not yet recognize most of the letters and does not understand print directionality. A is incorrect because he's not yet in the beginning stage when students are decoding words. C is incorrect because in the transitional stage, students read familiar text fluently. So it'll tell you, why the answer is right and explain a little bit. I'm mostly seeing A's, decoding skills, but the correct answer is B. I did see some B's. B is correct because encoding are to build words out of letters. So she's having a hard time putting them together to form the words. Um, Decoding is more like reading or sounding out the words. So needs to encode. Um, a third grade teacher carefully selects texts for students to read that are appropriate for each individual student based on her assessments. Which strategy of reading instruction is she utilizing? Oh, here I'm mostly seeing B. Yes, encoding is spelling. Good. Okay, let me see what we've got here. Everybody's saying D. Let me go back to that. Modeling and guided practice. Good. All right, I'm going to let you guys read that one instead of reading it out loud because on the test, of course, we don't get to read it out loud. Hopefully you guys can see that okay. This one, I see some A's, multi-tiered system of support. That's right. That takes into account the whole student, including their behavior, academic readiness, social and emotional needs. Piaget stages of cognitive development talks about what they can do as far as their brain development, like if they can think abstractly, if they can make a hypothesis, if they need something concrete. Good. I'm seeing C, dyslexia. That's right. And you guys are good. B, C, and D. Prosody, rate, accuracy, which we talked about today. Sometimes they say intonation instead of prosody. So that was very well done. So we finished a whole competency, which was my goal. And we finished all of the questions that go with it too, which is great. So you got a little free preview of my course in tutoring. Did you guys learn some new things tonight? Yes. Oh, good. Good. So this test is challenging, but it's definitely doable, right? And the main thing is to have study material that's aligned to the competencies, right? So some of these big companies that come up first on Google, they teach you good information, but sometimes they put in stuff that's not really similar to the test, right? So you can go to this link right here and you can see here's my STR course to actually study the information like we did first. And then here's the STR practice test. And to thank you guys for coming, I did a coupon today for 10% off. So you can save 10%. So it's very affordable, only $19 for the course, $19 for the test. And I think you'll learn a lot from both of them because even in the test, you could see whenever you miss a question, it tells you the right answer and how to, how to think about it next time. So that will help you. So I recommend you do both. But if you already have a really good study guide that's aligned to the competencies and you're getting through it well, then you could just get the practice test. But I wouldn't do the practice test if you don't have a study guide already, because that's not really a way to study. You need to learn the content. That way you can answer any question. Um, so that's the links and the coupons just good for today. And then, $19 is pretty affordable, but there's even a payment plan if you need that, if you select Affirm or Afterpay. And it's interest free. So, if you want to do that, you could do that. Some of them are interest free. Some of them do have interest. It depends on which one you pick. But that's about it. I do have time for questions if anybody has any questions. All right. Well, you guys are quiet today. Thank you so much for coming, and hopefully, I hope you pass your test soon and all your other tests too, because I know you got to take the core subjects, the STR, the PPR. Some of you might be taking other tests too. So if you need help, please give me a call or text me or email me, and I'd be happy to help you. But thank you so much for coming, and I hope you'll have a great night. Thank you.